This morning's sermon title, Sharing the Spark, was inspired by a chalice lighting reading from Albert Schweitzer. It's probably familiar to you. It gets used in Unitarian Universalist churches all the time. If you've been here more than a few times, I'm almost certain that you have heard it. It says that at times our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. The reading reminds us to support one another and to be thankful to the support that we receive in our Unitarian Universalist communities. But it also speaks to more than a momentary kindness. At times our own light goes out and is rekindled by the spark from another person. This isn't just a pat on the back or a kind word. Those are, of course, wonderful things. Kindness is a nice thing. But today we're talking about something more than a momentary gesture. Today we're talking about accompanying someone else on their journey of personal formation. A formation of character, formation of a soul is a very, very long journey. From the beginning of your lives, you enter the world with innumerable possibilities. Now, they're not infinite. Your physical bodies limit what you can do to some extent. But still, you have way more options than you could ever possibly live into. So how did you find your way here today? Did you, way back when, all those many years ago, set a particular goal and resolutely work toward that singular goal day after day? Or have you made your life up as you've gone along, guided by some commitments, but also composing and improvising and creating as you went along? Have you done it all alone? Or have you had friends and teachers and coaches nudge you along the path? Last week I talked a lot about attending to our own formation and the adventure of life, but today I want to talk about how we also can encourage other people in their journey toward wholeness. We're very aware that children need our help, and we talk about that a lot. But kids aren't the only ones who need guidance and compassion. Of course, our needs change dramatically over the years as we age. From having that first kiss, to walking down the aisle, to burying our elders or becoming elders ourselves, someone is usually there to help bring our life into focus, to translate those events into some formative meaning. So I invite you to think of who are those people who have encouraged your formation of character over the years. Who are the people who have empowered your growth? The people who have made you who you are today. And I guarantee you, you play that role for someone else in the world. I know it's scary, but it's true. You already have, or you will help shape another person's character. So it seems like something that we should be intentional about. As I was thinking back on who had shaped my formation, a sort of surprising person came to mind. It was a high school English teacher. I only had her for 1 year, named Mrs. Wilson. It was her first class, her first year at the school, though she was a definitely well-seasoned teacher. She was probably pushing retirement age. Part of the class was a multicultural literature class for the first semester, and the other semester was a writing class. We were focusing on writing autobiography. Now, keep in mind, we were probably 15 years old, so there was a lot less to get down on paper at that point. Now, I liked the selection of books in the literature portion of the class, and I liked her teaching style. But the thing that stood out was that she bothered to tell me directly, not in a comment in a paper, but in a conversation, that my writing had a particular perspective, a strong perspective. She told me that I had a particular voice in my writing. It was a very short and I'm sure minor conversation to her, but it really stuck with me. I wasn't a very confident student. I was actually pretty insecure about academic performance, but her encouragement really stuck. I think there are two reasons for that. One reason was that her encouragement was incredibly particular. She didn't offer a vague general compliment. She didn't say, "You're a good writer," or "a good student," or even that "I like your writing." She said that she appreciated my particular perspective and style. Her attention to a very small detail of what I had done made her support sincere and special. It was intensely personal. Now, the second reason I think it stuck with me was that she encouraged my perspective, my voice. And for an insecure, closeted, generally awkward adolescent, that was incredibly empowering. Someone had heard and appreciated what I was trying to express, even if it was in a silly English paper. My personal voice, my perspective was recognized. But each and every person has a particular voice, a perspective on the world that's unique to him or her. And that's why I offer the same benediction to you all every week. Go in peace and let the light within you be a blessing to the world. There's a part of you that is a gift, and I want to encourage you to share that gift. And I say it over and over again because so many people are reluctant to believe that either they have a gift or that the rest of the world wants to receive it. In encouraging other people with their journey of formation, I think it's important that their voice gets empowered. Their unique perspective is so important. Now, I have the opportunity to do that every week. But we all have opportunities to encourage the people around us to share that very unique, particular part of themselves with the world. Part of encouraging others' formation is encouraging them personally. Another piece of formation I realized this week that didn't come up at all last week is something akin to archaeology. Sometimes the most informative pieces of our life, the greatest growth opportunities aren't in the adventures that lie ahead or in the present moment. Sometimes the greatest pieces of formation require a careful excavation of the past. Of course, the future is always pliable, with different options for our lives every day. Our formation in the present and the future might be understood as soft clay. It's very malleable. It takes some special attention and care, but there are a huge number of possible manifestations for our character. What lies behind us, on the other hand, is more fixed. It's more solid. It's like an earthen vessel. And after years and years of experience, after journeys to different places, learning to love different people, becoming different people ourselves, those earthen vessels of our past can get lost and buried and forgotten. Occasionally, though, we remember something more clearly, or discover something about our family history. We uncover pieces of our own past for the first time. They're our own history, like a surprising discovery of old buried artifacts. But we don't immediately understand the full meaning of those pieces of our own history. because there remain unknown hieroglyphs on those cracked shards. In the uncovering relics of our past, there are mysteries to be deciphered to help us understand the puzzle of who we are today. And as we make sense of that past, as we decipher those mysterious hieroglyphs, having someone by our side is priceless. And yes, this is one of the primary thrusts of talk therapy. That stereotype exists for a reason. I think before most of my friends and I had done any therapy, we would, in a very mocking tone, say, "Tell me about your mother." Anyone who has actually been in therapy knows that dealing with your family is a treasure trove of material for personal development. But deciphering those relics isn't only a job for professionals. Friends are also incredibly important. As an adoptee, I have worked for a few years now to decipher some of the hieroglyphs of my past, and I'm still deciphering some of them, and friends have been absolutely invaluable in that process. I'm also reminded of Jay Kaiton, a Tapestry member who enjoys and is quite good at doing genealogical research. A lot of Tapestry members actually have found out pretty fascinating things about their past. But my point is, talking about the past, weeding through it, making meaning of it is a huge part of understanding our current character and who we're called to be in the world. To be honest, listening to someone weed through their past can be really tedious because it's not your own story. But I encourage you to be patient. Know that if you've been invited on that journey through someone's past, you have been entrusted with the most precious pieces of their life. Be patient. Listen and enjoy solving the mystery in their artifacts. The final reflection on formation that I want to offer you today comes from The Velveteen Rabbit, that surprising source. I don't know how long it had been since I read it, but when I read it this week, I knew that I had to bring it in. We talk a lot in American culture about integrity, and more young people are interested in this sort of realness. You may have heard a young person, and I've seen it come up in a couple of movies, use the word straight edge, and I don't even know if this is still in circulation. But I looked it up on urbandictionary.com, the source of all things pop culture. It says it's originated from a punk rock or hardcore scene. It's a philosophy or life choice that humans should have strength, pride, dignity, honor, and self-respect, that they shouldn't engage in activities that are a disgrace to their minds or their bodies. They avoid drugs, and they have very particular norms about sexual encounters as well. I'm going to have to ask around and see if this is still in circulation as an identity. But to me, it's a totally punk rock version of Thoreau at Walden. This realness is certainly something that I strive for, perhaps not with the same level of intensity, but it's part of a Unitarian focus on the wholeness of life, of being consistent in mind and language and action. It's a very high bar. And oddly enough, this Velveteen Rabbit story points out some of the powerful truths about the process of becoming real. It says that it happens gradually. In fact, you're worn out by the time you get there. It says, generally by the time you're real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because when you're real, you can't be ugly except to people who don't understand. We have a strong interest in our culture toward being real. to have integrity, to be genuine. But we don't talk a lot about how we help one another on that journey to become real. The kind of integrity that we aspire to takes lots of work, and it takes support of loving people. And again, from the story, real isn't how you're made, said the skin horse. It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real. Formation is a slow and rough process, and if you are blessed, sometimes you have friends and family members who take the journey with you. Friends who love us, not just for fun, but who really love us. This, actually 2 weeks ago now, my best friend got engaged. It was a very exciting text message to read. We've been close friends since my freshman year in college. The majority of our lives, we've actually lived in different states now. But not a month has passed when we haven't talked on the phone and more likely shared a glass of wine together. We had a blast in college. We had way more fun than is probably reasonable or perhaps legal. And we're both amazed that we didn't get in more trouble than we did. We've had rendezvous on other continents and pretty much traversed the United States in road trips. We've supported each other in family deaths. We've celebrated new homes and new jobs, pretty much all that we have been through. Like I said, we had a lot of fun, but through the years, there's something that transcends fun. Over the years, you get to know a full person and appreciate a full, whole, real, complicated person who is different from yourself. Becoming real happens when someone loves you for a long, long time. Not just to play with, but really loves you. Then you become real. This isn't something that you can do for everyone. But for a small handful of people in your life, you can love them into being real. You can bear witness to their life's adventure because you know the whole story. You can appreciate the whole person. We can readily think of those people who have been with us through thick and thin, those people who sometimes know us better than we know ourselves. And it's pretty comfortable to think of them and name them in our minds. But today I want to remind us that while we have those people who love us into being real, there are also people who depend on us in the same way. The rabbit sighed. He thought it would be a long time before this magic called real would happen to him. He longed to become real, to know what it felt like. And yet the idea of growing shabby and losing his eyes and whiskers was rather sad. He wished that he could become it without those uncomfortable things happening to him. The journey toward realness, the formation of our character, is a long and sometimes difficult path. Each one of us has reason to think with gratitude of someone who has relighted the flame within us. Each one of us has reason to deeply appreciate the people who have helped us grow. And the best response to gratitude that I know of is to pay it back when we can. Amen. Would the ushers please